Everyone has a bright light inside of them that deserves to be seen by the world. That's why it's time to shine the light on the extraordinary, who are accomplishing phenomenal things. This is the Shine Out Loud Show with Lillian Abogo.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Shine Out Loud Show with me, Lillian Abogo. Now, we've had some technical difficulties and a little wrinkles, but you know what happens. Tech demons happen. We can't stop them. They do what they do. Tonight, I am joined on the show by the very incredible Adeola Aderemi. Adeola, hi, how are you?
Hello. I'm good. Hi, everyone. And sorry for technology messing up with things. I'm so sorry. This is what happened when you try to do a Skype interview live via different continents. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Our tech demons happen. But you know what? We are here now. So let's roll. Now, for people that don't know you, now, you are a very multifaceted woman. You happen to be so many different things. You're, first of all, a Nigerian Greek, raised in Nigeria and Greece, and you are a graduate of speech and language therapy. You have your own multimedia content creator, and you have a magazine called Distinguished Divas, and you're a research assistant for Yale. But most importantly, you're also a yoga therapist and founder of The Warrior Woman, which is a program that helps trauma survivors. How do you find the time? How do you find the time, woman?
I'm super old, I guess, I'll say. And also, there are like 24 hours in a day, and I'm hyperactive, I guess. And I do so many things, and I have passions for so many things. There is like, I think since I remember myself, I can't do one thing at a time. I need that, I'm going to say diversity. I need choices. I need a lot. I have so much energy and I need to do so many things for me to feel inspired and productive.
Well, you are very productive. In fact, I think you are suffering from a serious case of overproductivity because you are doing amazing things out there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It means a lot when you actually think about it like that, because sometimes you're like, okay, am I doing enough? Is there enough to do? Because there's always more to do in this world. There's always something more to do.
Well, I think, the fact is that you are standing up and doing your part is more than enough. It's not just your part. You're standing up and being very vocal. And one of the things that you say about yourself is that you're a social justice advocate. So what would you define, would you say that is for those who are not familiar with that term?
For me, social justice advocate is someone who wakes up every morning, looks at life beyond themselves. Not about what do I get today, what makes my life easier, what makes my life better, but is my life somehow impacting some other life? And also, when I see injustice, how do I react to injustice? How do I respond to injustice? Am I just being a passive onlooker, or do I see it and does it touch me to make me stand up and say, no, we have to fix this. We have to help this so that there are not people in inequality. So it's not about acknowledging that you're good, but knowing that I'm not good if everybody else is not good.
Okay. So it's really for you, it's really about everyone being well and being good. And when you say good in that space, you're talking about people having the same amounts of rights.
When I say good, I mean many other things and their intersection. It's about people having equal opportunities, equal right to express themselves in various or whatever way they choose to express themselves. It doesn't have to be equality, because people talk about equality as if that will solve the problem of injustice, but it will not. For me, it's about equity.
So when you say equity, what exactly do you mean?
So I mean, for example, giving chances to people to be on the same level, to start from a similar ground. Whatever their background is, whatever their knowledge is, whatever their educational background or their financial background, their class status in society, their race, their religion, their orientation in gender, sexuality, whatever way they are. It's starting from the same point, knowing that if I show up here in society, regardless of where I come from, who is my father, what my name says, we all have equal opportunities. So it's not about giving us all the same mark, but it's about starting from the same places and have similar obstacles as we go through life.
Okay, so I like this idea of, equity, because you're saying that yes, we all have differences, but it's recognizing that there are these differences, but we still get to show up and be represented. That's what I like about this. Okay, so we talk about the work that you do, and there's so much, but when you look at all the work that you've done, are you happy with the changes that you've brought about through that work?
Wow. That's such a nice question to ask. Okay, if I want to be super optimistic, I'll say yes. But if I want to be realistic, I will say no, I'm not. Because I know that what I do every day is about, when I wake up today, how do I impact the person next to me, whether they know me or not? How do I impact at least one person? And I feel like we still have restrictions in impacting people's life and making their life better.
Okay.
Because even our willingness to do that, even all the goodness of our heart sometimes is not enough.
Right.
Because it's all about the structures in society that we have, whether that's financial structure or the structure generally built by the people in our mind. And that means, when I say people in our mind, I mean the voices we hear, which is the voices of our families, the voices of the people we meet in our daily life as we journey through that life. And also the voices we read or listen to, even social media. And for me, I don't feel like I've done enough, because I still feel like every day there is something happening somewhere that I feel like I could change if I work hard enough. And I would say that's very hard to say to myself, because it makes me like unsatisfied with the things I've done.
Okay, so but you're saying that you're unsatisfied with the things that you've done. If you look at, are you being extra hard on yourself? Are you being super critical on yourself and what you've done? Because we know that you have different activities and different interests, and each of them that you work on impacts somebody in a very positive way. Even going from the fact that you are raising awareness in human trafficking, you're working with women who've suffered trauma, you're building your women of your global media platform as well. So are you being super critical? Are you being honest and saying that you actually don't think that you're making enough of a change?
I'm being honest, because I feel like I don't deserve a cookie. Know, I feel like a lot of time we feel like, of course, I've done enough, and the things that I can do, that's in my power at that specific moment. And when we're talking of right now, I'm doing all I can do right now. Right. But I know that there are more to be done. There is a lot of work out there. And if we want the next generation and our generation to live the life we envision, then I know that the fight is never over.
Okay.
And it's a continuous race. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. And I have to keep going, and I have to keep going. And this is coming, like, I have an athletic background. I've been a runner before. I know that you don't finish a marathon. You keep on going, even when it gets hard. And if you say to yourself after running 10K that, oh, well done, at least I've run 10K, there are 32K to go. You see where I'm going?
Yeah, I do. I love your honesty, and I love the way that you look at the work that you're doing as a continual situation, as a continual battle, as a continual fight, but it's an evolving one that you take part in.
Yeah, because I grow also with my work. Like, I learned about myself every day. There is something new to learn. And I feel like we all grow daily. It's like a butterfly. We start slow, we move on. And the things I'm standing up for today will keep evolving as everyday things people and the people I come across, the people I work with, the people I'm working for, as they grow, I grow with them, right? And if I say today, oh, we fight this discrimination and it's incredible, and we, for example, when I was working in Greece, for example, with an organization on the rights of second generation migrant, I was like, oh, cool, we've done this now. So now we have a legislation. Cool. But what does that mean in reality, right? Like, how does that translate to the daily life of these people? Does that change anything in the effect racism have on people, or even the perception of racism, or how we perceive the rights that we have? You know, there are some rights that on paper you do have them, but that means nothing. So for me, it's about that. That's like, you never finish this. It's always going to be a new problem somewhere. And it's not for me to be pessimistic. It's just a reality.
Adeola, I love that answer. And you touched on something that I wanted to bring up, because you were talking about the work that you did in Greece to get that legislation put into effect for second generation Greeks. We spoke about this briefly when we met, and you were saying that, non-indigenous Greeks have a hard time being recognized as Greek citizens.
Yeah, like, for example, you called me Greek. That was so nice, because a lot of people, when they see me in a room and I come and they're like, oh, where are you from? And I say Greece. They're like, huh? Which, in the ideas and the images of Greece that are out there, you don't see a lot of Afro-Greeks, right? You don't see a lot of Afro-Europeans. And when you see a black person, a black woman, I ideally think they're American, African, or British sometimes. Okay. But then when we're like, no, but we're Afro-European and we're Afro-Greeks or Afro-Italian, people don't believe that. And this is the same thing that happened in legislation. It's not just about the perception of other people. Mm-hmm. It's like 2 years ago that we had to fight a fight. And it's still a fight right now, because there is a legislation that was sanctioned 2 years ago that everybody born and raised in Greece could actually finally apply for a Greek citizenship, because this is not a given thing. Like, we started an organization with a couple of other Afro-Greeks in Athens that is called Generation 2.0 5 years ago. And it's about the fact that we look into the legislation and we realize that if you're born in Greece, that doesn't mean you're Greek. And this happened when people start getting arrested, to be deported. Someone who is born and raised in Athens for all their lives, who have no idea where the country of origin of their parents is, not because they don't know biology, but geography, but because they've never been there. Right. And they speak Greek all their life. Their experiences are in Greece. Their friends are in Greece. Their lovers are in Greece. Their enemies, if you want, are in Greece. And then they wake up one day, and to enter, for example, into university, you need an ID, and they realize they don't have an ID, so they can't go to university, right? And then they walk up to the police station and say, hi, I want to get my ID. And the police officer is like, oh, you have to go back to Nigeria and get an ID from your parents' country. Or you have to go back to Uganda or Zimbabwe or Jamaica. And there is this idea that everybody think as long as you're born somewhere, then you're part of that country. But it's not true. Like, there are still Greek people today that I do have a Greek passport and I'm a Greek citizen, and I don't care who take it or not, that will tell me to my face, but you're not Greek. And it's like, even if you fight the legislation, even if you fight the papers, there are things more stronger than papers. There are mentalities, there are the way society view you, that people will still tell you, but you're not. Like, we're still fighting a big identity issue in some European countries. Italy, for example, is the same thing. You're not recognized as a citizen until you're 18 years old. And this is also something new, because they were also in the same situation Greece were in before 2008, where nobody knows you. Like, you don't literally exist on paper. If you're lucky and your parents registered you to the Nigerian embassy or the Jamaican embassy or whatever country they're from, then you might be getting a citizenship of that country because of your parents. If you're not as lucky, then a lot of people are stateless, or a lot of people are just invisible.
I can't even begin to wrap my head around that, because being invisible in your own country is really, it'll be really hard, and then you have to then transplant and say you're supposed to go to a country of your parents' origin, and then this comes down to this idea of what's your identity, and which is one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, because when we look at identity, you define yourself as a Nigerian Greek or a Greek Nigerian. It's funny. How do you see yourself? What is your identity as a Black woman? How do you define yourself?
It's identity politics is like a topic we're going to talk forever and ever and ever. But I'm going to try to shorten it because it's one of the questions that people assume about me a lot. Like sometimes people just say, you're Nigerian. And I was just like, okay, whatever. If it works for you, cool. And sometimes people say, you're Greek. And I'm like, cool. But personally, I don't even know. Like a lot of time I'm confused by myself because I'm like, where do I belong, right? Where do I feel allegiance to? And for me, it's not nations. It's not about borders. It's not about, and I think, and I also want to say this, that I realize that this is a very, very privileged thing to say, because I've worked with refugees before in my life. I've worked with stateless people. I've worked with people who don't really know because of situation and circumstances when it comes to nationalities and identity. And I like the idea of breaking free from nationalities and sovereignty and borders, but I also know that it's not realistic. Right. So when people ask me where I am from, I just say I'm Yoruba.
Okay.
And that is because it takes away the borders of nations, right? Because Yoruba is a tribe in West Africa that also exists in South America.
Yes. Because
of the wonderful slave trade. I shouldn't say wonderful, but this is sarcasm, and the people who know me know I'm very sarcastic. And for me, it's also about origin, like my heritage, the cultures, the food that I eat, the way I carry myself, my name, Adeola. It means something in Yoruba. Mm-hmm. And it means something to my parents. It means something to my kinsmen, to the people around me. So a lot of time I prefer to say I'm a Yoruba girl who lives across the world and journey through life and move through life and happen to have some passports. And that's how I see myself.
You're right. We could discuss this one all day because there's a lot to kind of delve into. So we'll just call you the Yoruba woman who is multi-dimensional and is a child of the world.
Yay, thank you. Yeah, but it also comes from the fact that I grew up literally all over the world. Like, it's not just, there is this nice thing that I would love for it to be actually pragmatic and exist, citizens of the world. And I know people who hate this term, people don't like it. If not for the connotation that comes with it, I would love this to be something that we can all agree that it exists and we can all be okay with saying that we're citizens of the world, because there are people who literally just, their life is all over the places. But like on my phone, there is a word clock because my friends are all over the place. My families are all over the place. And I keep checking, what time is it here so I can give this person a call, right? And this will be the way I envision the world in the next 10 years, that people can claim to be from everywhere. People can transcend borders. And of course, we have Brexit, so that's not possible, to be honest.
Let's not talk about Brexit. We will have to do a separate show around Brexit and get a couple of Afro-Europeans and British Black individuals to have a discussion about the impact of Brexit at another point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's go back. One of the things that we look at when we look at you is that you're known as the creator of Distinguished Diva magazine. What led you to create that?
So from my experiences and living around the world and across the world and being that voice, Greece, for people who don't know, is a very, very nice, beautiful country that everybody only knows Santorini because that's what we market. And the idea is that when I was in Greece growing up, I was the only Black person in my city. And my family, of course. And then you look around you, role models of people from the television who are Americans or British American, Black British, or even sometimes most Africans. But those are images that I didn't see in my everyday newspaper. I'm a lover of print. Right. I love the internet. I love the media because I do believe that the media contributes a lot to who we are and how we develop our mind and what we think of the outside world. Like it's a window to another world that we can't physically be in. And working with different media companies, I realized that I was always the voice, you know, like, so you're the Black person in the room and you're alone. What do Black people think about this? And it's such a funny thing, but it used to bother me, but I'm not bothered anymore. But I realized that I want to give a voice to myself, right? I want to be there for people like me. In Greece, for example, I needed to create this space for me to connect to other people. So I created a blog when I was in university. So I started a fashion blog and I write about my travel, about my outfits, what everybody did in 2011. Like everybody and their great-grandmother were sharing a blog. And then I start writing for student magazine. I was a fashion editor, and I realized that every time I suggest outfits and what to do and trends, my editor will say, yes, but this is only something that will look nice on Americans or Black people, and we don't have Black people here. And I was like, true, maybe in the city, because this is a small city, but if you go to Athens, there are Black students coming to Greece to study, or even Greek Black people who are here. But I always got shut down for like, yeah, come on, change this a little bit, fix this a little bit, you know, get edited constantly.
Right.
Or sometimes I get invited to panel discussion when I used to work in trafficking and research and talk about effect of trafficking on women, and mostly Nigerian women from Italy to Greece. And it's a very different topic, but I work with this demographic and I always get invited to talk for them, always. So what happened to this woman? What about this woman? And I realized that I'm always getting invitation to talk for others every time. And I realized that this is not something I want to do. And it sparked my mind when I was working also last year with refugees in Athens, who are women from Afghanistan, Iran, Pakistan, Syria. Every time I teach a yoga class, so I was a yoga therapist, and I was teaching a yoga class to heal and to talk about their stories, so that a lot of people heal by telling stories. And storytelling is something we all have in our blood, most especially African diasporas, because oral story is what we hear from our parents, our grandparents. They tell stories to heal, stories to cheer us up, lullabies at night and everything. And I really wanted to not be that voice that keep talking for everyone else, because I feel like every story is different and every story is beautiful. And I met up at this beautiful, idealistic, I will dare say, fellowship. And I met up with 3 other women of color. There was another Afro-European, Danielle Rosales, who is German, Cuban, and it's a very beautiful mix, and another African-American woman. And we were talking in a room, people who didn't know each other, like we didn't know each other before this day. And there was another man who was there. So we had a tour guide who was supposed to take us somewhere. And he took us to this beautiful neighborhood in Athens, and he said, this is a ghetto. And I quote, this is a ghetto because you can find a lot of Nigerian prostitutes and also drug dealers. I quote. And they've been living here for the past 20 years, and they're really immigrants, and it's a very immigrant neighborhood, right? And I myself, I was shaking because I'm a Nigerian and I'm also Greek. And this man, I spoke to him in Greek. He chose to respond to me in English and then tell this thing to a group of intellectual people from across the world who came on a fellowship and to talk about future cities and beautiful things, blah, 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 blah. Very idealistic bunch of people. And nobody felt the need to question him. That why does a neighborhood equate ghetto because the people who live there are African? Or the way you put them African, because you say these people have been living here for 20 years. In my point of view, and in any other point of view, these people are no more immigrant because they've built roots in this country,
Yes.
if they've been living here for 20 years, as that person called them. And I realized that when I checked the room, there were only 3 people who shook their head and who were very angry and share in my anger and frustration. And it made me think, like, if these people who are so intellectual cannot call someone off by saying this thing, then we have a problem, right?
Of course.
And then we have a discussion after all of this, and he said he didn't realize it. He said that was not a problem. And then we went somewhere else, which was in the same neighborhood,
Right.
with another very European woman who has been living in Greece for 2 years but doesn't speak Greek. And the people he called immigrants spoke Greek fluently, been living in Greece for 20 years. And he said, oh, come on, but you're practically Greek.
Oh, okay. So it was what is not the language. It was that she looked like she could be Greek.
Exactly. So for me, it was like, so the immigrant is not someone who lived here for 2 years, but someone who lived for 20 just because their skin color is a little brown or a little black. Even though they speak the language, even though they've been paying taxes for this country for 20 years, even though they've been actively participating in this community for 20 years. And then I realized that I want to be not the voice that speaks, but the voice that allow other people to speak. Because, you know, every time when you say something, you become that person who is always antagonizing people.
We'll never
you
say
become
we'll
the-
never say that you're the type to antagonize. Never, Adeola. No.
Or you become the angry black woman, which is a label I claim for myself happily, because you know what? There is power in words. And when you claim something, it can never hurt you again. So when people say you're an angry black woman, I say, thank you, because I'm angry. Because, yeah, that's it. I'm a black woman and I'm angry. And I'm angry for reasons that I want you to fix, that I want you to change. And we decided with Danielle and Sasha and me that we want to do something where we don't talk anymore, because we feel like we talk too much, that we forget that we're not the model. Like, I'm not the prototype of a black Greek woman, and I'm not the prototype of a Yoruba woman, but I want every woman who look like me, who have parallel experiences like me. The experiences might not be similar, but they are experiences and they're valid, and her story matter, and we want her to be able to tell the story regardless of any kind of obstacle and restriction. So I said, what do I want to do? This is what I want to do. I want to switch up things. So my blog, that was my one website, changed. I shut it down. Danielle created a wonderful graphic. She's a graphic designer, so she created the image and the language that we want to show the woman that we want them to tell the story. And
Okay.
Sasha is a writer, so she came on board as an editor, and I came up with the idea, and that's how Distinguished Diva became Distinguished Diva. And we're very happy to say we've published a lot of voices that are very different, but also all the same because they all matter.
You know what? I've actually had the opportunity of looking at Distinguished Diva magazine, and I'm really impressed with the diverse voices, with the different viewpoints. But most importantly is, like you said, it's not just your voice. You're giving others that space to actually say, this is what my identity looks like, this is who I am, and this is what I'm speaking for.
Yeah, we try to also do that so that, for example, we work on themes. So every lunar month, because why do we use lunar month? You can always restrict the Gregorian calendar. It's a restrictive thing. It's a Western ideology, and we don't believe it. So
Okay.
we say we are going to follow nature, the moon. You cannot manipulate nature. So every new moon, we have a new issue. And the issues are the same topic, but the way you check the issues, like if, for example, now we have the sisterhood issue. The stories are so different. Like, it's one topic, but people write in various ways. There are people who are writers, there are people who are speakers, there are people who are poets, there are people who are illustrators, filmmakers. There is so many forms to express yourself and tell your stories. And what we want to show is that there can be so much diversity even when we're talking about the same thing, even when we all look the same, because a lot of time people say, okay, Black people are all the same. They think the same. They all like chicken. They all like to dance horizontal. We just want to show that, like, we're not a monolith. There is a lot of complexity and intersection to who we are. Mm-hmm. And that's why we exist.
Well, what can I say to that? That in itself is a whole speech right there. I think we need to go with, yes, we are not one, we are many, and people need to take that time to recognize. But, I know you say you don't speak for others anymore, but what gives you the courage to stand up and speak? What gives you the courage to stand up and speak out?
So there is something that I realized that a lot of time we don't have the courage, but I'm very, very, very blessed to have been raised in a place, in a family, and people who always tell me that my voice matter. That if I lose everything in this world, there is one thing that I should always, always value. It's my voice. Because when you don't talk, people will hurt you, people will kill you, and they will smile. And it's like they will think you enjoy it. And as Audre Lorde say, if your oppressor keep oppressing you and you don't say anything, he will think you're enjoying it, and that's okay. So it's my personal duty to say how I feel, because nobody's going to read my mind and nobody is going to speak for me, because I would love that we live in a world where people see injustice and speak for others. But I also know that it's not a realistic thing. As we are right now, we see so many things happening in the world, and we see how people choose actively to ignore it and actively to just not engage. Mm-hmm. And for me, that's not something I have. Like, I don't have it in me to see injustice. I don't know if you know this term. As a healer, I'm an empath. Yes. And this is a very, very, it's a very difficult thing to be in 2017 and in this world that we live, because I feel people's pain. I feel what people feel, and I can't control it. It's not something I can shut down. It happens, and I live in a world, and I feel like this is my gift to the world, right, to feel. But also my obligation is to use the feeling, the things that I feel, to use it to better other people's life.
That is, you know what, I think that's the first time that I've looked at the empath from that perspective, as it being a gift to the world, and you're doing exactly what you set out to do. So for me, to you, well done. And, we talk about you being a healer. We talk about the work that you've done. We talk about the fact that you've done yoga and you do use yoga as a therapy. Now, what drew you to yoga as a Black woman? What drew you to yoga? Because we've had this discussion.
Yeah, this is very funny. Like, even in 2017, I'm the only Black yoga teacher, therapist in the entire country of Greece, which is not hard to be the only Black anything in Greece, to be honest. But so I was a professional athlete. I've been a runner most of my life, and I got injured in 2012, early 2012. I got a back injury, right? And my coach suggested I try something else. Like, I've done physio, acupuncture, and everything. And then my coach said, maybe you should try yoga. And I'm like, yeah, sure. So I started yoga. I had this wonderful teacher. It's actually in a university gym. So my university had a gym, and I was like, okay, cool. So I started a yoga in my university gym, going once in a while, once a week. And then I felt my body, like I had a very severe spine injury that I couldn't walk for months because I had like a sciatica pain, a nerve pain. Wow. And so I couldn't work, and the doctors are like, yeah, that's it for you. You're not going to be able to run. And anybody who's a runner, especially pro runner, know that you love it. It's not just running to you. It's life. It's a lifestyle. It's who you are. It defines who you are as an identity. And I was devastated. So yoga for me was a place of safety, a place to embrace my body and love my body back, because I was blaming my body for disappointing me. I will say it was a very hard time for me. So yoga was a place where I feel like I could get in touch with my body and learn to respect my body and also love it back, and also let it love me back. because I was very disappointed. And after that, I became someone who do yoga every day after the period, because my teacher was also very nice. She was very gentle. She was very helpful. She gave me books to read on yoga for athletes and how yoga helps athletes. And I was a very bad athlete. Like, I would do a lot of weight training and everything, but I forgot to care for my body. I was harsh on my body, but I was not loving to my body.
Okay.
And that gave me a journey where I became very humbled that I can't do everything. And sometimes your body will crack because you put it too much. You do too much and you give it too much pressure and you think you can do everything. So after that, I start teaching yoga slowly to my fellow athlete, but not as a teacher, but just like, hey, let's do this after training and let's do that and let's share exercises together. And then I moved away to Germany and I started training again professionally with a very high team, actually, like very nice team. And then everything was just good because I did yoga like twice a day. It became more than just a place to escape. It became something I loved. So you will see me every day like upside down. I remember my Instagram post back then. There were so many yoga pictures. I did every yoga challenge on Instagram. And that was the time where everybody was doing a yoga challenge on Instagram. So I was in all the yoga challenges. I was being very gentle. And then I got into meditation and I realized that that's also a very good way to start, because I also believe in my spirituality. And I know that my body is not just a physical body. There is my energetic body. There is my spiritual body. There is my mental body. So I started connecting to every part of my body. And it became something very, very highly important to me to just do every day. And then I realized that, I want to share this with people. I want to share this with the world. And my friends loved it. And my friends are, oh my God, you're so good. Please, let's do yoga this Saturday. So I started setting up like a international yoga group when I was in Munich. Okay. And we will do yoga in the park. And Bavaria, or generally Munich, is a very beautiful city with a lot of parks. So there are no excuses. So we will do yoga in the park. We will go to the seaside. We'll do so many things. And then my teacher was like, okay, you actually need to take this seriously. Like, you have to actually know that you do have the gift of being a healer and also teaching other people the things that you like and the things that you already are passionate about. And you're doing that. Why didn't you certify it? And I was like, oh, okay. So I should be a yoga teacher? She's like, it's up to you, but I feel like you have the gift and it's not like beneficial if you just keep it under. So there is this theory that if you have a gift, share. Right?
That sounds like a good idea. Yeah.
So if you have a gift, share. So she challenged me and I started that. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I met this other teacher who was traveling to teach yoga across the world to people who cannot pay to go to yoga studio, because there is this idea that yoga is elite. And you have to be rich and pay 70 euros, especially in Munich. It's like very expensive to get to yoga studios. So he was traveling and teaching people yoga for free or donation-based classes and what you can give and stuff like that. And I was lucky to be part of his class. And he's like, yeah, this and that. And I was like, okay, cool. So I took my yoga certification. And after that, I met up with another woman who went to India to learn yoga. And she was in Greece during the time I was working with on trafficking.
Okay.
And I checked and she's like, oh, we should do something with this woman. And also because I already teach them yoga, she's like, we should do something deeper than just the physical. And I was like, that's true. So I looked into different ways to use yoga as a therapy. And then I realized, you can certify as a yoga therapist. And I was like, oh, cool, sure, I want to do it. And then I got that certification. And also, why doing that? I realized that in Rwanda, the United Nations created a project with other yoga teachers called Project Air. And it's basically using yoga as a way to heal for child soldiers to heal their trauma. So after the genocide, there's like a lot of child soldiers in the street and people all over the place. And people carry trauma. And whatever you do and carry in your life, your experiences, it stores in your body. And when I say
yeah.
body, I mean all the 5 bodies, like energy, physical, and spiritual body. Everything is interconnected, and there is a holistic side to it. And this project just sparked in my mind. I was like, oh my God, this is perfect, and I want to learn more. So I started reading on it, contact people who created the program. They're like, oh, this is what we did, and this is how we did it. And it was like a very nice program because it was endorsed also by different celebrities, of course, and the United Nations. So it was incredible. So I was like, oh, cool. And then we sat down with my yoga friend also who worked in trafficking and with women. And we're like, okay, we're going to do this. And how do we do it? And she's like, I don't know, because I was Nigerian and the woman already trusted me. There is a thing with, it's about when you see people who look like you. And this woman already trusted me because of that.
Right.
So we're already doing yoga together. And I know that in the society, community that we come from, like the Nigerian community in Greece, religion is a very big thing. So people see yoga as religion. And I don't want to scare them. I don't want them to feel like she's teaching us something else than our own religion.
You're bringing some spiritual nonsense to their front door that is not Christian-like. Yep.
Exactly. Like, this is not church and this is not the Bible. What is going on? So I had to find a way to make it like something they will not be scared of, and just allow them to explore and be open to it. So I created this nice series of yoga poses and different meditation and mindfulness program. And I told them, so I want to show you what I want us to do together from today. Like, we'll not be playing jump up and different gymnastics. So it's not about, because when they came, it was about, oh, I want to lose this part of my body. I want to be this. I want to be that. Right. So I talked to them. We had like a nice little workshop where I told them what I was thinking, and I showed them the Project Air program. And I said, what would you like us to call this program? And they're like, oh, Warrior Woman. I was like, absolutely. So we created a program together and give it a name. And every day we came and I buy tea. So we have like, I don't know if you know those teas that come with little, like something like a little, you know how you have the fortune cookies? Uh-huh. So they come with a tab, and there is a little nice thing that they wrote on top. So I got those teas, and then I brew the tea every day before we start, and then we read the little thing. And sometimes like, love is what you give to other people, something like that.
Oh,
and they'll be
cute.
like, I don't want to mention the name of the tea, so people, pay us if you want us to mention your name.
Love that. No, you see, Adeola, first and foremost, I think we need to do this for setting up that Warrior Woman program. So this is needed.
Yeah. So we start talking about things, and they start telling me, for example, when we read the little paper, I now ask them, so what is love to you? And how do you express love to yourself? And how do you express love to your family, to your children? And then we have like a 2-hour discussion about love, about whatever we picked up. And then I'll be like, good, now let's do some yoga. And it became a routine and a ritual for them. Like, they will call me, for example, there will be days where I have a headache. I'll be like, oh, I have a migraine and I can't come. They'll be like, oh, Adeola, we hope you're better and we hope you're good. Please come, and something like that. And I did this, and I felt like every day I went into the room, I feel like this is a family, right? Wow. And this is something. And these are women whose story I can't like imagine the things they've been through. Like, their stories are incredible. The things they've been through. Imagine a Syrian refugee who is 70-year-old, have to leave everything behind. Imagine a woman who've been raped, who've been battered, who've been sold into trafficking. There are stories and stories and stories. And I just felt the need that we could all come together and hug each other and talk so freely to each other. And after a week, go back and come again. And we did this program. I lived in Greece and worked with this woman for 2 years. Yeah. And they're still like, when are you coming back? And when are we going to continue? And this is something I would really love to continue. But realizing that we also live in a capitalist world, I did this in the beginning, I did this voluntarily, right? Okay. It was voluntarily. I was going there every day. I was giving I felt like it was something I want to give back. But life happened. Bills have to be paid. And I tried to find a way to fund the program, and I really kept it alive, and I really go and do it as a part of Distinguished Diva, where I teach yoga for free and do this. But I also want the project to continue, and I want the project to be sustainable on its own. So
Right.
there was a point we got funded a little bit for a period of time by Mercy Corps, which is also an organization that incredibly doing things for refugees and migrant women all over the world, and they were doing this program in Greece. But of course, every project, like every organization, have project based, so every project's finished and there's no more money, and then we move on. But for me, the idea is to keep doing this so that yoga is not something we see as a whitewash tradition or nice gym thing, but as something that we all heal and we all come together and do to tell our stories, to journey and communicate in a community where we feel safe, where we feel like we can talk, where we feel like we can heal together, because that's the only way to heal.
Ah, wow. I agree. I agree. Yoga, yoga is something that I think we've had this discussion about yoga. We've talked about the idea of what, when you think about yoga, what people think it should look like, and forgetting that it's a practice, it's a daily practice, it's an inbuilt practice, and like you said, it's also a healing practice. But till the day I spoke to you, I'd never heard of anyone using yoga as a therapy practice to heal people who've gone through trauma. So for me, that was jaw dropping and just amazing to actually sit down and hear that.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of time we criticize things and we say, for example, especially our community of Black women generally, we say this is not for us. It's the same about mental health. Like a lot of Black women are like, yeah, I don't go to therapy. And I'm like, how do you survive? How do you do it? Tell me. So it's the same thing with yoga. For me, it's like your body is the only place that actually belongs to you. It's like it should be your best friend, and the relationship we develop, the relationship we have in the world that we live in, is very, very problematic because we don't learn it. We don't learn to appreciate our body. And I feel like for me, that's what yoga does. Like it brings me back home, and my body is home. My body is where I live daily. So if I don't have a relationship with that, something is definitely not right.
Okay. And now we're going to segue from that because you said that a couple of times about that part about loving your body and being loving and everything. And as a yoga practitioner, someone who loves connecting, what's your current self-care practice beyond yoga?
Oh, so many nice things. I journal.
Okay.
I believe that words have power, and a lot of time the things I can't say, I can write. So when I wake up every morning, I pick up my journal and let the pen guide me, and let the pen, whatever happened or whatever I want to say, whether those are lucid dreams that I have before or just a thought or whatever it is that I collect from my day and from my sleep, I just write them down. And I work also with crystals. Those are a beautiful amplifier to the things that I feel, to the way that I communicate with the world. Because as I said before, as an empath, I connect and I see and I feel a lot of things. So there are ways to preserve myself and also to protect myself. So I work a lot with crystals. I love the sun. I feel like the sun and nature is a beautiful thing. Like I spend my afternoon today at this lake. I'm in Germany right now. So I spend the afternoon at the lake and just listen. Like a lot of time we forget to listen. I just sit there, listen, read books. I'm currently reading Sister Outsider, Audre Lorde, and Renee Eddie Lodge. So I read, and I find reading a good way to connect. It's about me listening to that voice inside of me. And I think the voices we hear from everyone else is very, very distracting that we forget to listen to ourselves. So I try to find ways to travel. Travel is one of my self-care, and also I do travel because of work, but I love traveling and meeting new people, seeing new places, getting inspired. And the most easy self-care is I sleep. I always used to forget to sleep. So now I actively tell myself, go and sleep.
All right. So sleep, journal, listening, taking time to connect with yourself, reading, and actually just being in the sun. And we both know that you are an outdoor baby and you love being outdoors and you love being in nature and communing. We've had conversations about that as well. So, okay, I love that. And, people keep talking about self care practice. And sometimes it feels like it isn't practical enough. So for a woman who doesn't self-care, who doesn't, journal, who doesn't, find the value of sitting still, what will be your one advice for you to her that she can do today, tomorrow to start taking care of herself?
Okay, so the first thing, when I started taking care of myself, one thing I always remember by my teachers and also by people that I listen to, friends and mentors, is look in the mirror. That's the biggest self-care practice. If you start every day by looking, like really looking at yourself in the mirror and loving the things you hate, because to be honest and frank with ourselves, self-care become a trend and everybody's like, I love myself, I love myself. It's not easy to love yourself, Like a lot of time you look at yourself, you're like, oh. And that's self-care, looking at the things you don't like, but choosing actively to be grateful for those things and choosing actively to love those things, even on your worst days. Self-care is not just on the days you go and get a mani and a pedi. No, or a day you decided to travel or go to the lake. Those are luxuries sometimes. Self-care is looking actively at yourself and say, I love you. Even though I feel like this about that, but I still love you.
That's powerful.
And I think that's cheap. That's very cheap. You don't pay anything. You just look at the mirror and tell yourself those things.
Adeola, you say it's cheap. For some people, that is really expensive. They will do anything in the world rather than actually tell themselves that.
I know. This is, when I say cheap, I'm sorry, I mean financially. Like you don't have to pay to anybody else, but push yourself to look at yourself.
I know, and I love that. I love that, the simplicity of it, because we forget that we are what we are, and taking that time to love our imperfections. That's just, it's like you said, it's supposed to be simple, but sometimes can be a challenge.
Yeah, this is why it's not simple. Like life is so simple yet so complex, and that's the point of it. That's the whole point about whatever we do in life is as simple as it can be. It can also be as hard.
It can be, and yes, it can be, and sometimes the hardness is coming from us. We make it more difficult than we need to do. But I've loved having you on the show, and barring our technical difficulties, I will definitely love to talk to you some more about the work that you do and really get into that work. But where can people connect with you? Where can they view your work? How can they find you?
I'm a very social media person. I'm always on Twitter.
Okay. What's your handle? Exactly.
It's at Adi got her own. Adi from Adeola got her own from, And Instagram, you can always find me at Distinguished Diva. I am the person behind Distinguished Diva. For some cases, there are other people, but most of the time you'll find me there. And also go to www.distinguisheddiva.com. My work is there. I put up once a week, yoga classes that I do videos. I try to give people access to something they cannot pay for, so you don't have to have a fancy. And I always tell people that yoga is not about the fancy things or the flexible things. It's about the willingness in your heart and the openness to try something new. You can find me on all this. I have my emails there. You can always email me. You can always tweet me. You can always DM me. I'm always open to talk. I'm always open to listen. And I'm always open to be just here, and if I can say one thing, never, ever, ever, ever shrink yourself to make anybody else feel better about themselves.
I think we can end the show using that, and that is a good piece of advice, because if you're shrinking yourself for somebody else's comfort, very soon you'll be invisible.
And we don't want that. We want you to shine.
Yes. And, you know, here at the Shine Out Loud show, we absolutely adore women who step up and speak out and take that ownership. But the fact that you are doing so much, the fact that you have done so much in the past, you, like you said, a healer, an empath, you have helped people through trauma, you have your magazine. When you think of everything that you do, out of all that you do, what is the most important for you?
Wow, interesting. So the most important for me is to make sure that every day that I wake up, every day, single day, that my actions, whether I know about them or not, impact somebody else's life positively and add value to that person's life, even if I don't know this person.
I like that. I absolutely do. And before we wrap up, now we have something called the So Loud Moment of the Week. And this is basically where we look out, whether within our own physical space, online, and point out and share something that we think is just amazing, our So Loud moment. So, Miss Adeola, what's your So Loud moment?
Oh my God. Does it have to be with me?
Yes.
Okay, wow. I'm shocked. So my so loud moment, I will say, is so this summer right now, I'm working with teenagers. Like this is the first time where I'm actually actively teaching teenagers to emancipate themselves in a society that tells them not to, and to become active citizens of the world. And the feedback and the way I see people who are very shy, for example, not to say what they feel and how they feel, openly come in a group and say how they feel is incredible. And also the most incredible part are the feedback I'm getting from people about Distinguished Diva. And I really, really put my all into it and make it what I feel like everybody wants and give it to the people back, because it's not mine, it's not ours at all. And I really love that people come and say, I really love this platform, because this is what we want. We want people to own it and make it theirs. And I think that's the soul light moment for me.
And with that is where we end. That is where we wrap up the show. Adeola,
can I say something before we wrap up?
Of course.
I just want to say one of my other soul light moments is the moment I met you. You are incredible. Oh my God. You're like incredible. And I really, really want to say I love social media and I love the internet and I love what the internet has been doing, because there's so many bad sides to the internet, right? But we also have to highlight the good side. We met and it's been incredible. And I really, really appreciate you taking the time and inviting us despite the odds and the technology and all of this, and giving me the platform to talk. People don't do that a lot, and thank you so much for that.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much. And the feeling is absolutely mutual. The day we met was one of the very interesting days, and we were at an event. You were on a panel, I was a moderator, and we had some interesting conversations at the end of
Very nice conversation that we would like to keep private. Thank you.
Yes. We'll keep those private, silk drapes and all. That is really our business, nobody else's.
You don't have to know everything,
So, lady, it's been really, really amazing having you on the show. I am looking forward to actually coming out to Greece at some point and doing this again and talking to the Afro-Europeans and the Afro-Greeks who are out there doing amazing things in their own right. So let's get that sorted and we will talk again.
We will. Thank you so, so much. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
You're welcome. Now, that has been the show with the amazing, multi-talented, multifaceted healer, empath, media creator, all-around good girl, and just an amazing woman, Adeola Naomi Aderemi. Thank you so much for being on the show. And guys, you know where to find us, same place, same time. If you cannot connect with Adeola, hit us up on our website, shineoutloud.tv. You know where to find us on Twitter and Instagram, and we'll pass your questions along. This has been a pleasure doing the show, and we'll be here same time next week.
You've been listening to the Shine Out Loud show. If you want to connect with us or let us know what you thought of today's show, be sure to follow us on Twitter at Shine Out Show.